Well, hello. It's time for another edition of The Way of the Blade. It's been a while, like basically years, since I just sat down and pulled out a savage knife and we just talked about that. Because you know what? Today, we're going to do a Blade of the Day, just for what it's worth. I have all these ridiculous late night conversations with people, humans mostly, mankind creatures, almost always. And you know what? One of my favorite things to talk about is this stuff. Yes, assuredly so. Tonight's edition, late night edition, for those of you late nighters, you'll enjoy this one thoroughly. For those of you that are completely and totally never even heard of The Way of the Blade, there's this old playlist that I have that's way back and buried in the old YouTube coffers of my past. And you know, it all started like 4 years ago. Ish. Basically, what was going on, I was living outside of Fort Bragg in North Carolina. And Fort Bragg is kind of that just other level home of the sneaky dudes, sneaky homies, shalomi homies, you know? Appreciate all those warriors that are out there doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? But regardless of that, it was at the time, it was like right when all the lockdowns were happening, and I was like, oh man, it's going down, son. You know, some of you were right there. You were like, oh, it's on, man. They're going to totally release the bioweapon and everyone's going to die. Mostly, but some of us are going to overcome. And I was like, yes, it's finally my time. Some of you that are going to be real creeped out by that. But you know what? Tonight, I don't even care. I'm going to go ahead and put to death the fear of men and being moderately embarrassed to talk about these things in the casual, just tangential way that I am, because my mind works like a multiplicity of spaghetti bowls, and we're going to go down that direction. So tonight, we're going to center around this knife. I'm going to try to do my best to stay on target, and we're going to talk about just this knife and understanding some of the just some of the way that blades are actually used in the world in places that most people don't think of or consider, like this one, okay? If you guys never heard of this, this is a Strider knife. Just so we're always clear about anything I ever talk about, I have no reciprocity deals with anybody. I'm not like here to promote a product line and then be like, you guys should buy it down below. I have no affiliations with any of these. I don't sell the products of any of this stuff I recommend. It comes from Sweaquity. You know what I'm saying? I poured my face into the earth and tested something and found out, hey, I actually absolutely love this thing. And I like advocated to others. That's it. I just want to pass these along to you guys. You do whatever the heck you want with it. You can go ahead and pick up some things about why titanium exists and why G10 exists and why certain super steels have advantages, but why 440 carbon steels are just fine too. And heat treat and tempering and metallurgy and blacksmithing and forging and all of these things that make me super giddy with glee, and why ring knives are freaking fantastic. Oh, look at this beauty. The spade. We'll talk about all this stuff. I'm going to try to stay on track, though, with just one knife and talk about how a warrior honors another warrior. Because there's this whole subculture into the world that most people just are not brought into, and they just don't see it. It happens all around them. But it's like intentionally designed for you to be unable to physically see it, observe it, understand it, identify it, track with it, or even know anything that's actually going on. But it happens all around you all the time. And this is like the gray man world. If this is a term that's completely new to you, hang in there. I'll do my best to give specificity of terms as we go along, and you can track with me. But basic premise is you don't stand out. Kind of the fundamentals. Chameleons. You know what I'm saying? Chameleons, sting like that. These are those folks who don't make anybody know that they exist until they suddenly make other people know that they exist. They're background noise. Nobody really notices. They're entirely designed to be overlooked. Abnormal to no one. That's it. Just background, fuzzy wuzzy was a bear kind of guys that are out there. And then suddenly they're not. Most people have this idea of what special operators look like and how they operate. And you know what? In the world of public uniformed land, that's totally a thing. You know, big, tough dudes. But then there's these other guys that are 100% never allowed to look like the big, tough dudes. And those guys sometimes just pop out of the literal shadows and introduce themselves to you. And they're very interesting. And you know what? This blade comes from one of those guys. This is a Strider knife. Strider is a knife maker who has a signature style in his folders, and this is one of them, okay? This was brought up to me by somebody who came to meet me. I don't publicly make myself known like, hey, guess what? I'm going to go be meeting here. Except for very rarely. Like, it took me years, y'all. Like, it took me years to just even turn on a camera and sit down and talk to myself, or this Black Mirror thing I'm staring at right here. Like, it was a lot easier to have conversations with people when there's another human, another person, mankind, creature, sitting on the other side of the camera asking me questions and talking to me. Otherwise, I was not very good at doing the whole vlogging thing. Chelsea helped me tremendously because she would put together these videos and do these edits and this whole thing that helped us to get out there. But it was really hard for me to sit down and do this, especially about this kind of stuff, because I'd been so intentionally, strategically compartmentalized to never, ever stand out, to never, ever reveal tradecraft, all right? Which is like how spies operate. How do counterintelligence operators investigate spy rings successfully, as in you don't get caught and tortured and killed? You know, that's fundamentals here. You don't want to end up in prison, and you don't want to end up in somebody's pig pen, because a pig, well, a couple of pigs, generally like 3 to 6, will devour an entire human body in a matter of minutes, highly successfully. So you should always be wary of the state of Iowa, where all the pigs are that you guys eat. They feed a lot of humans there. It's like where you send the meat processing facility of all the human carcasses to when you want to dispose of them. I digress. Javelinas are what were used by my family down in Arizona in the White Mountains Apache Reservation. Packs of javelinas. They're like tiny little, you ever heard of these creatures? Maybe this is new to you. In the deserts of Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, some of these places, there's these creature things that look like wild boars, but they're tiny. They're like tiny, and you're like, oh, they could be kind of cute to people that don't know any better. Either way, they're like boars, are ferocious. They're omnivorous, meaning they will eat darn near anything. They'll eat roots, and they'll eat all kinds of stuff, but they have these crazy sharp molar in between incisors, and they just devour bone and flesh like nobody's business. And a big old pack of those decimates bodies on a terrifying scale. Anyways, tuck that away. The Strider knife, okay? The guy who walked up to me and gave this to me had been in and around this gathering that I had been at for a week. Background noise. Significantly invisible. Just looks like everybody else in t-shirt and, you know, shorts. Gym shorts. Tough looking dude, but not noticeable dude. But then he came out of the shadows at 1 in the morning, like how I'm hanging out right now, to have conversations like this, because you just can't have these conversations when all the children people are around. You know, I'm not talking about the young ones. I'm talking about the cognitively young and naive ones. You can't talk about this kind of stuff with those people around because, you know, they get moderately uncomfortable and they're like not used to warriors talking. Anyways, he sat down and we had an incredible conversation. One of the best conversations of my life. And he worked in the teams of a branch of the military that I'm not going to talk about because he's still an absolute stinking warrior out there. Hallelujah. Bless you, brother. Anyways, as he was departing after we had a few of these super late night conversations, he ended up handing this to me. And to me, a blade like this has a depth of meaning when it comes out of another warrior's pocket. To most people, when somebody hands them a knife and be like, this is a gift for you, they're like, okay, thanks. That's great. What you don't understand is that when someone who has literally used this to defend themselves or to put people in the ground, this is an entirely different thing. See, because this knife looks like kind of a folder knife that people are maybe traditionally somewhat used to. However, there's some design features about blade geometry, about grip and texturing and jimping, and where there are certain cuts designed into the handle and into the steel, and the types of the pocket clip that are used, and the types of markings, and the kind of stone wash finish. All these features stack up to be something formidable. Okay, so I'm going to just slow down a little bit in the story and just try to show you some of those features on a knife like this that are going to be unique to some of these other blades. One of them, first and foremost, is the width of the blade. This is not the normal size of most people's EDC pocket knives, and that's because these kinds of knives, 99% of a soldier's knife, let's just be clear, and I'll say this now and we'll get it out of the way, are used for normal, ordinary pocket tool tasks. Does that make sense? That's like what all of you use most. If you do carry a pocket knife, it's what 90% of you use the pocket knife for, which is opening your Amazon packages. I know it. It should be done with absolute lethality and precision every time, just so you can just, keep the muscle memory going and everything else, and you can feel like a stinking stud every time you open that box in front of your children and they're like, wow, Daddy, that was so sharp. And you're like, I sharpened it myself. That's a moment of accomplishment, men, women too. Please understand, I'm going to probably say mostly man stuff tonight because, deal with it. You ladies of the blade too, props to you. You're far more scary and formidable for other reasons. Disarming people with your lady looks and such. Scary. We're not going to go there because that's a whole other thing. Anyways, I've got a wooden cup and a big old French press full of my bark teas. I make bark bags. If you don't know about those, they're delicious. It's a blend of all kinds of medicinal and herbal remedies. Tonight's feature, Yaupon holly, North America's native caffeinated plant. Tuck that away. You're welcome. Additionally, we have rosemary, ginkgo biloba. We have slippery elm bark harvested from the Ozarks. What else we got in there? Licorice root, marshmallow root, juniper berries, alfalfa. All organic, people, or wildcrafted. Just shush. I'm aware. I'm cognitively aware. What else we got? Red raspberry leaf. All kinds of stuff. I just start going into my medicine chest and just throwing it all into a giant mix, and then I just brew that up, okay? When I want to in the mornings and jumpstart the day, I also add like mold-free, mycotoxin-free coffee. It's a long story. You guys are like, where do you get your energy from? I'm like plants. You ever eaten them? They come from the stinking ground. It's a marvelous place. Endeavor to explore it. Don't drink the poisons. Make your own delicious medicines. I digress. Food is medicine. Let me say all the things you're not supposed to say. You betcha. That's where healing comes from. Walgreens is there to murder your soul. All right. Now that that's out of the way. Blade geometry. Ordinary pocket tools. 90% of the things people carry a knife for, right? We'll go ahead and get that thing to zoom in because you can see that sick, savage edge I put on that thing. Yeah, it's a thing of beauty, you guys. It's good. Trust me. The most formidable thing about a knife is the edge, right? If your edge is not sharp, it's a dangerous, dull tool. Please understand this. When you cut things with a butter knife and you think that's how knives are, it's very depressing. It's super sad. What you don't understand is how beautiful and wonderful a knife can really be. Like, a knife can be so amazing. Like, so amazing it puts a smile on your face every time you use it. I like to take people's knives, not like from them personally every single time. I like to take their knives a little more sneakily and covertly from their kitchens and then just take them to my ridiculous professional sanding, sharpening rig that I have. Shout out to Empty Knives. Freaking rock, bro. Thanks for introducing me into glory. Glory be to Yahuwah for making brilliant men come up with the marvelous ideas about how to make a sander that's darn near bulletproof. I'll get to that episode. I'm going to just teaser you guys with that and breadcrumb all kinds of pearls for you. But it allows me to take a knife like this and turn it into like, oh, I'm going to do it in front of the microphone so you can hear it. Oh. It's disgusting. It's just landed all over my laptop. Fantastic. Anyways, super scary sharp. And that's like one method of sharpness. I can show you, hey, it's shaving sharp. But the type of steel that this is has all kinds of other factors that are incredibly beneficial, like edge retention. That's important because even though it's that sharp, if it's not going to be able to hold that edge very long, it's kind of like moderately not that beneficial. It's cool for a little while, but like, I'm going to reach into my knife chest for a second. Oh, yeah. There's that thing I will not use upon my head. Number 6. Something to consider. Samsonites. Anyways, like this knife, okay? Let's talk about some features of this one. Cross-compare it. Ah, there you go. Ivory handles, first and foremost. That's why I have this. Ivory. It's better. I don't care. It's better. Fossilized ivory, if that's what you need. Go into the antiques realms and markets. Just tuck it away because you can do all kinds of stuff with it. Like discrete blades, when we want to talk about covert blades and ghost blades and ditch blades and stuff like that. We're going to go down that whole rabbit hole for a while too. Man, it's just so fun. I just got a chest full of goodies over here, and I want to show them to you guys. Anyways, I hunt these at antique stores, okay? Let me just show you some of my terrain mapping of features of where I find some of these things. I like to go to antique stores and pawn shops, okay? And I say that because these are two little giddy hunting zones that you can go to where, like, all right, People that do clandestine operations, you need to buy certain knives, like a Strider knife, just for reference. This thing's like a $400, $600 knife, okay? Whatever. I've never bought one personally because that's just swinging out of a budget I don't have. However, by that guy giving me this knife, it introduced me into a completely different subculture and community of other operators and snipers and people that did a whole lot of wet work operations for all the scary 3-alphabet soup letter agencies and paramilitary organizations. That's one of the junk door terms of saying it. It introduced me into a different little subset of a guy who makes knives like this for people like that. Now, you guys can buy it. All regular humans can buy this stuff, no problem. However, there's others that are assigned this, and it's different, right? You get a customized, serialized number that's an identifiable, traceable tool to you, and it's inventoried and checked in and checked out and that kind of stuff. And that's like part of the literal armory, part of the arsenal of your unit. Now, some of those units bestow that blade upon the soldier upon their departure when they go back into the civilian world of camouflage, and they continue to do all kinds of work for all the other people that are in the phone book. Those guys, every once in a while, what happens is they get into a pickle where they need cash more than they need the blade, and so they have to hawk it. And some of these blades have no markings. That's a paramount feature for a ditch blade. Okay, let me stop and zoom in for a second because that might be new terminology to you. When you use a knife on somebody, an individual, in a way that's obviously not legal, right? It's kind of frowned upon these days. These are what are like unacknowledged. Nobody's going to back you up necessarily unless you got a deep black book somewhere or you got a whole bunch of, blackmail evidence on other people or whatever, If you've dug a whole lot of dead man switches out there, it just depends. Anyways, there's different blades that are designed to be carried on your person that can be used and then thrown away, ditched. Let me show you some ubiquitous ditch blades. Ubiquitous ditch blades, okay? Dollar store special. Fundamentals. Like when you got to travel by airplane and you land somewhere and you're like, oh man, I don't have any metal knives on my person right now. Shucks. Nobody ever detects the obsidian blades. Tuck it away. Yay! You see the blade on there? Neither did TSA. Woo! Anyways, these are the ubiquitous ones that you can go to the thrift store and get for pennies, right? I got these for literally $1 each at a thrift store. And I was like, booyah, son. These are those like paring knives, Victorinox, that kind of generic, whatever. They're like decent, reasonable kind of budget blades, and you can get them and you can make a little cardboard holster out of duct tape and then tuck that thing in your crotch, wherever you like to keep it, wherever your deployment method is. And you can do these anywhere in the world. This is cross-cultural. You guys, appreciate you guys in Sweden. Really like you guys in South Africa and you wonderful Shalomi homies that are in Kazakhstan. Hallelujah. You guys rock. Anyways, this kind of blade is one of the best ones for these kinds of reverse pull cuts, okay? When you want to separate a tremendous amount of material on a deer carcass or whatever it is you're trying to pass through, you have way bigger muscle groups in your back, like in your back, your lats, your traps, your biceps, your triceps. There's all these big muscle groups in your body, right? Well, some of the most powerful ones are on the back, and those ones are for pulling, right? You can do a fair amount of stuff with pushing, right? With push cuts and with like slashes and slices. But you can do a formidable difference when you have a hawkbill shaped thing or a tiger claw shaped thing and you put it in a reverse pull cut. Oh my gosh, just devastation. Now, some of my favorite blades is in the previous series when we talked about these, I don't have almost any of those blades anymore for a variety of reasons. I generally gave those to another warrior, Here's the rule. I'm giving you my blade. I trust you enough to hand you my super sharp tool to not turn around and use it against me. But I also trust you to do nothing with it or to use it mightily. Either way, it's now yours. That's an honor culture between blades guys. Does that make sense? So if you ever meet a guy who's all about the blades and he suddenly gives you one, it's because he's trying to promote you and honor you and say, you are a formidable individual, even if you're 5 years old or you're 55 years old. Where I come from, age is an irrelevant factor when it comes to capacity to lead. And I've met a lot more leaders that were in the tiny little, youngsters category than I've met in the elders category, sad to say. The vast majority of perverts and broken, worthless shepherds masquerading that were really wolves tended to be in the older category of life, and they just were imbecilic. Anyways, I digress. I could get into a very long conversation on that. Anyways, I don't use these for any of these features anymore. Please understand, I'm just trying to bequeath to you knowledge that came from the hard use side of the equation. Regardless, these little ditch blades can be picked up when you land, wherever, and then you can customize them as much as you want. This is blue so that somebody can find it when I throw it in the woods. There's a reason. Otherwise, they're almost always black on black, blackout blades. If this is a new concept to you, let me show you one. Okay. Here's a black on black blade. This is more like a design feature from somebody that's named Bastinelli. Bastinelli is a bladesmith who does all kinds of scary blades. He's a death dealer. If you don't know what that is, don't even worry about it. It's not for you. But death dealers are guys who are helping to supply this underworld, okay? Bastinelli makes these certain types of blade styles and geometries. I had a lot of those in the early blades videos that I had. I had a lot of his designs because he's got smaller shaped hands, okay? I have schmedium hands. This is real important for all things related to blades. Your digit size, okay? You pick your nose with this. You've wiped your butt with this thing. You poked your eye, scratched your eye, and done all kinds of stuff with this index finger. If you're a lefty, hang in there, brosif. We're going to talk about that too because I shoot left-handed. Tuck that away. Now, this is a blade size that's comparable to fit in my hand. See? It's important. Fits in my hand well, and look, when I hold up my index finger, it's actually slightly smaller than that. That's a suitable feature for certain reasons. Now let me show you a different one. This one is about the exact size of my finger, which is like 3.2 inches. A little bit less than that. That, to me, is the ideal blade length for an EDC pocket knife, neck knife, like the one I made. When I made this one when I started out and when it used to be full size, it used to be precisely that size. It was exactly the size of my index finger. And that's for a reason that it's familiar to my body when I'm trying to engage in proprioception. That's like, where is my body in space? When I close my eyes, do I know precisely where my pinky finger and my thumb are? Do I know exactly where my elbow is? Do I know exactly where all of these components of my body are in the middle of absolute darkness? Because the art of silent killing is predominantly done from the depths of darkness. There's a reason. People's guards tend to be at their lowest, and people tend to be the least capable of seeing. Most people do not develop and systemize their training in night operations, okay? But Clandestine operates, generally, that's like the time you thrive. So you spend a lot of time training your eyes to be more effective with their rods and their cones. They operate on different systems, and you need to know this in order to understand, like, okay, why does red light exist? And why does green light exist? Like, this is my little tiny... This is like one of my go-to pocket lights. I have a video that was called Light Up the Night. These were all super poor quality. Hang in there, guys. I had a stinking cell phone, and I was living in the sticks outside of Fort Bragg. So the audio was piss poor, terrible stuff. But I did my best. Either way, I still carry that stinking flashlight from all those years ago. I got introduced to Nitecore flashlights like 2012, 2011, 2010, way back there. I still have one of the OGs. This is my OG that I have had for more than a decade. This guy, this was, what is this thing? HC90. Some of these things made it all the way, bros. I've had a lot of purges. There you go. HC90. Nitecore. Yeah. Not my company. I have no affiliation. Just a dude who loves the stinking stuff. Anyways, this thing's great. It's got an infinity bar. That's important. Infinity bar. But then it has this feature. Red. Yay. Green. Yeah. Blue. Great for tracking blood. Anyways, the green is what your eye picks up most readily and sees as the brightest color, okay? And that's because you have two different things inside your eyeball that help you differentiate between different colors on the light spectrum. Some of them are more geared to the hotter temperatures, higher temperatures, some of them to the lower temperatures, all right? They pick up the reds, the yellows, the oranges better. The other side of the equation picks up the violets, the purples, the blues. Like, in the middle of all that is the green spectrum, when you are transitioning from white light, like what I'm staring at right now, these lights that are making it actually capable for you guys to see me, when I go from this color spectrum into the total darkness that's on the other side of this wall of light, this photonic barrier that's in front of me, when I go to that, there's a transitionary period for my eyes to adjust, like to switch over. That transitionary period is critical. It's critical. And it doesn't seem that important unless you're one of those people that just likes to walk around in total darkness. And I am, like, for instance, I went into a tunnel recently. I like to go into the underworld just a little bit, okay? And by what I mean specifically about the underworld is I literally am talking about a physical place that's under the city. That's like where people drive around and operate from and go to the store and they like flush toilets. There's critical infrastructure in all these cities that most of you just never even think about because you've been brainwashed to think the city life and the upper world is where everything is happening. But there's a lot more happening underneath the ground. Far more happening underneath the ground. And unless you've been in the sticks trying to buy a whole bunch of methamphetamine or you're trying to get a whole sweet score of heroin or something like that, none of this stuff really popped up to you, but there's physically just a little bit of underworld infrastructure that's just built right into the city, and that's where people who are caught up in criminal activities, that aren't masquerading as bankers and masquerading as loan sharks and all the other stuff, in the lawyer's world, where the persecuted criminals live. Anyways, it's like where Rahab was. You know what I'm saying? The house of prostitutes. Like, that's where spies hang out. It's biblical, you guys. It's super biblical. Anyways. That's where the spies hang out, because when you want to be a chameleon, you need to blend in. And one of the best places where lots of people are coming and going is brothels, is prostitute houses. It's places of the ladies of the night, the red light district. These are things for a reason, you guys. People look more appealing in red light because that's why the bars and all these things have that color light spectrum, because your eyes can't make out shapes as fine featured in red light. It's not called the green light district because the green light, your eyes see more readily. Wow, you can actually see fine details. But in red light, everything's a little fuzzy, and that's beneficial when people don't look so real good, like rough-lived, hard-living people. I love all of you people who are in that world and have come from that world. Know this. I don't say any of this to be derogatory. I love you and have way more in common with all of you guys than any of the surface-dwelling creatures that I interact with and hang out with on a normal day-to-day basis. That's the hard hat to put on, We'll talk about different hats. Urbanite is what I call it. How to blend in different environments and contexts. We'll get there. Anyways, when you want to go down into the tunnel system, there's a reason red light is there, because that's what preserves your night vision most readily. It allows your body, your eyes, to transition quickest to night vision. Yeah, like most humans, people. I'm sorry, it sometimes sounds derogatory. I don't mean it to put you down. It's just the world I was trained in, you guys. There's subspecies of man, lots of them, and they come in all kinds of shapes, sizes, forms, and figures. Most people takes about 10 to 15 minutes for their eyes to go from like what I'm staring at with this bright light into darkness, and then for those rods and those cones to begin to be able to detect the available light and interpret it and send it through your optic nerve to your brain to process the image and allow you the ability to see and interpret what you're seeing more accurately. Other people, other different kinds of people, have much higher concentrations of rods and cones in their eyes, and they spend a lot of time never being around this kind of light, okay? They do that so that they can preserve their night vision longer. Like a big feature of that is like when you're going from a dark place into a bright space, it's training yourself to slam one of your eyes, your dominant eye closed. Like when somebody who has a headlamp on, if you're ever out hiking on a trail or camping and you've got the doofus who doesn't know what's called light discipline, and they shine that stupid thing in your eye and you're like, that whole feeling. Like, you can condition yourself and train yourself to shut one of your dominant eye, like hard, real hard, like that, or like that, like to shut it super hard so that you can still see and retain that night vision in the one eye. This is why pirates had the patch. I'm going to get lost in the weeds of history for a second. Gosh dang it, it's exciting. Do you understand? The patch was not because they were blind in one eye. Do you know this? Okay, they had to go down into the bowels of a ship from bright, stinking surface of the sun, miserable, sweltering, swamp crotch, hot place known as boat decks, down into the depths of a ship, which is very dark. No artificial lighting, please understand. Candlelight, lamplight, oil light, all that stuff was a feature, but it was a fast transition. And when you were in an experience of like fighting for your life, or you had to reload a cannon or go get something, that patch allowed you to take the non-dominant eye, which is generally your surface dweller eye, okay, and move it over to your underworld eye so that you could go into the bowels of the ship and be able to see way better. Okay, that's the function by and far of what the patch really serves. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps some of you have a paradigm shift of understanding. Hey, the whole pirates, you guys, were like Knights Templar, East India Trading Company. It's a whole other diatribe than what you've inherited. These are like the beast system working together to collaborate and hang out. That's why parlay was a thing. They're like, yeah, ultimately we all serve the same master. And they're all bowing down and kissing the ring of the serpentine pope. Anyways, tuck it away. The pirates. That's why they did this stuff. This is light discipline. This is understanding how to weaponize the darkness so that you can fight effectively from the shadows. Whereas the guy who's at the disadvantage is the surface-dwelling creature who shows up on deck and tries to go into the bowels where you can ambush him and cut his throat. That's a big difference. That's how leopards hunt. That's how lions hunt. You can go ahead and learn these things if you go ahead and do biomimicry of creatures. That's how I learned a lot of this stuff. Just trying to imitate a lion and how they hunt. Just trying to imitate cats. Like when I was little, I just followed cats around and watched how they killed things. And I was like, dang, they got such skills, man. Like some of you little ones that are watching this out there, shout out to you. Good for you. Nature Nate is a whole other thing, right? Hang in there. If you just go and study cats and how they ambush predators and how they, like predators, how cats kill other predators, that's cool. Predators that kill other predators are special kind of creatures, and you should study from them, you know? Like, they hunt other predators, things that have eyes on the front of their face versus things that have eyes on the sides of their heads. Prey animals have eyes over here, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you look at a cow, they're all like this kind of vision, like, we don't want to die. So our defense is to see stuff and then herd up together in a pack and run for our lives. Those are prey animals. Predator animals are things that can give the predatory gaze. That's where they lock in and fixate. You know, think of a wolf, think of a mountain lion, think of these kinds of creatures. Anyways, they know how to give the predatory gaze. They also know how to transition very rapidly from highlight, vibrant environments to low light environments very quickly, and they make that transition really quick. Anyways, you can get better and better at it, or you can do gene editing and psychotranshuman stuff to make your eyes have all kinds of mixtures of that, and it happens. It's freaky. Some of you are going to meet slit-eyed peoples. Congratulations. Welcome to the future. You're going to have to know how to give the gospel to every creature. Read the book of Mark. Tuck that away. Anyways, hey, if they have the desire to be redeemed, let them do it. But red light features are phenomenal. That's why this little pocket light has been in my pocket forever, because it puts out a half lumen of red light. That's more than enough for me to see a lot. I do not need a lot of light to see. I don't. And anything that's more than that wakes my babies up. You know, I've been in stinking dad, baby, rearing, father-looking zone for a long time. And, like, we don't use lights, you know. That's unusual. I didn't know a lot of this stuff was unusual until I talked to other people on the phone late at night, and they're like, no, Nathan, we turn on lights. We turn on lights. I'm like, even when it's dark outside, but then people can see inside. Do you seal all your windows? No? You know people can see you, right? All the time. People just, they weren't raised by psychopaths. That's fundamentally important to learn. But I digress. These simple little lights help to not disturb the people that are trying to sleep. Any of you that are co-sleeping parents, you guys raise your families like the old ways, the righteous ways, the biblical kind of ways, you know, the ways that people did forever so they could have proper attachment and proper development of their children's well-being and their health and their vitality. Anyways, you got to try to do the whole parent sneaky thing, which is like get in, get out, and do other stuff while the children are all sleeping and all the rest of that. The little red light feature, tiny low light red light, change your life forever. The reason I love this one is because it can also do the full send, son. Yeah, buddy, 910 lumens, allegedly. Candelas is where the feature is. That's what's actually detectable by the human eye. It helps. Check out the candelas when you're looking at flashlights. It tells more of the story than just lumens. Lumens are super easy marketing advertisement that you've all been brainwashed to be like, I got a 3,000 lumen flashlight, bro. I'll knock you out dead, son. And I'm like, interesting. You want to learn a fantastic effect known as the photonic barrier? Yeah. See, what's interesting, let's talk about photonic weaponry. okay? These little lights, right? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Okay, this is my little light that's always been in my pocket almost continually for 15 years, right? The MT10C. That guy's been in my pocket forever. They don't make it. He's discontinued and all the rest of it. I can only find this light. What is the website? NitecoreStore.com. They had these on discount blowout sale for a long time, and you can get them for like 30, 40 bucks. Anyways, they're little lights. They run on a battery. Let's talk batteries for a second. Tiny little grenades in your pockets. They run on these kinds of little batteries. You know, what is this? RCA 123As. Ubiquitous in most people's tactical lights. Small ones, like your weapons lights and all the rest of that stuff. Anyways, rechargeables are great. They lose power over time, so you got to replace them. Keep an eye on it. Have a great charger. Anyways, tuck it away. Basic stuff. This one is the substantial new creature organism that Nitecore put out recently, and I finally upgraded because I've had quite a few of their different ones. But this puts out 3,000 lumens. Yeah. Okay. The big thing, though, is that this has a variable strobe, which makes people pukey, which is fantastically hilarious. So when somebody with this, I'm going to not do this all in your face. Yeah, I'm going to do this, whatever. So when somebody who has this much, which they say is like 1,000 lumens, okay? When somebody has that much light in your face, you can't see very well, right? But when somebody has this much, okay, let me show you the turbo, super bright. Let's see. There we go. We on full blast. That's full send, okay? When somebody has that one, now look, do you notice how my little light is almost invisible? You see that? But to your actual eyes, you literally cannot see the little light. This light, even when somebody's shining this one in your eyes, you cannot see at all. So this creates a photonic barrier. This is why police and law enforcement, when they pull you over, what do? They create photonic barriers to disorient and to disrupt and to overwhelm you, so you're incapable of really taking in any visual data from what's happening behind you. They're creating a shield of light. That's what these flashlights, some of them, are specifically made to do. They're literally designed to create photonic barriers, okay? That's what they're there for. They have different features to do that, like strobes, intermittent strobes, because you can defeat a strobe if you know how to lock that eye closed. You know what I'm saying? Lock that eye closed and track towards the ground and do your barrel roll forward and come up under the throat. There's all kinds of little tactics for defeating the strobe effect. But that's why they started changing it up with these variable strobes that do all kinds of seizure-causing stuff. It's real clever. It's real devious, and it's really beneficial when it's in your pocket and not theirs. But if you have a brighter light, you can turn it on and blind them, and you literally cannot even see their lights. You cannot even see them. It's amazing and super fun to do with people that aren't used to that. And people that use that and they weaponize that against the little human creatures, and then you suddenly weaponize it against them, and you turn on your rear-facing lights, and you're all like, it's hilarious. It's not always a good protocol to go ahead and introduce yourself to a peace officer. I have no problem with you guys that are rocking it from the blue line. Hang in there. Just know that I love you guys. I'm just trying to equip people with the information that's separated us from them for a little too long. But anyways, photonic barriers. Tuck it away. The Candela's rating is important. I'll have a whole little maybe I'll get there. Just a series on the flashlight life again. And my updates on what's in my pockets these days. It tends to be more than one light, you know? It tends to be all kinds of other lights. Because lights are very effective tools. And the two things I tend to use the absolute most often in my life is a knife and a flashlight. They're practically the most useful tools that I can carry in my pocket. I love this knife in my pocket because it extends my reach and it gives me the ability to choke up on it. But it also gives me the ability to go into a reverse grip. Oh, sweet Moses of the Mississippi. That's such a nice, familiar feeling. And you see how that has this beautiful thumb ramp? You see that? That's somebody that loved a person enough to put a thumb rest there. That's somebody who understands the power of that into the table. They understand that it's really nice to index your hand in a reverse grip. It's nice to know exactly what this does because this orients my knife in such a way that I know exactly its alignment in this isosceles triangle of space and time. Okay, this allows me to know exactly where I am in that total darkness environment and to orient this so as not to cause harm to anything that's not supposed to be harmed and to go ahead and inflict massive cavitation damage on that which needs to be harmed most readily, like a grizzly bear, you know. Life bucket dream is to wrestle a lion in a pit with edge tools only, just me and him, son. Read the Benaiah, bro. Ideally, that will be this blade of choice. Good old reliable. The Gurkha Kukri Plus, my most recommended short sword for everyone. You betcha. Solid, robust, and exceedingly capable of beheadings. Do you hear that horrible sound? That's the sound of gravel in my sheath. Doling the edge. Don't worry, I haven't put the final edge on this thing. This is factory edged still. I was going to sharpen it the other day. I had a 6-hour marathon of sharpening knives in preparation for this marvelous evening of festivities that we're having together. But I got to this one and was like, you know what? Maybe I'll stop and maybe I'll just go ahead and show people what I do with the factory edge, because I've been using the heck out of this thing with the edge that came on it, and I'm like, fair to midland. But this is the one you want to fight the lion with if you can help it. I think I'll go at it just with this, though. You know what I'm saying? You just want to go with these? Either way, I digress. I literally chased a lion into a pit in Florida in front of a whole bunch of children and my wife filming it. You know, I took a spear with me, and then I got onto a ladder, and I had no idea what to do with a spear on a ladder because I'd never actually used a spear to fight a lion in my life. I've been carrying a spear around to fight off bears, but I'd never fought a lion with a spear. And I was like, this doesn't seem right. I feel like awkward and borderline naked with this Maasai spear that I've never killed anything with. I was like, so I just went right back to the Kukri, the headlamp. This exact headlamp, that Kukri, and of course my dagger, Fairbairn Sykes dagger. Hallelujah. Blessings be to the Most High for creating daggers. Those of you that are feeling moderately uncomfortable because you're like, this is kind of scary, hang in there. They're very biblical bladesmiths. You ever hear about Ehud? Yahuwah, the Ruach of Elohim, comes upon him, and he's all like, go mightily avenge for my people and kill the Moabites and lead them to victory. In my head, that's how the word of Yahuwah sounds. It's like, and the word of Yahuwah came to him, and he made a double-edged dagger, a cubit in length. And then he went and rallied the troops. Man, freaking savage. I dare you not to bore me with the Bible. Unfortunately, a bunch of brainwashed idiots have bored many of you with the Bibles, mostly because they didn't know any better, mostly because they were raised by our enemies. That sucks. But Ehud is the most savage assassin story of my life, and I modeled my life after him because, you know what, it gave me hope that there was some kind of goodness waiting at the end of this all when it was said and done, you know, and it's like, how many swords did the disciples carry? Quiz for any of you. Tuck that away. The Hassashins, the assassins, the zealots, as they're actually called through antiquity and time. There was 2 of them in the apostles, just saying. The Messiah loves the assassins. Hallelujah. Peter did not miss when he swung the sword. Cut off the ear of the guy so that he could not enter the temple again. Understand, context is key. I tuck it away, I digress. Anyways, Ehud, great assassin, makes a double-edged dagger, covertly sneaks his way in, surreptitiously arranges a meeting with the King Eglon, super fat dude. Fat because he's been eating that dead bread, you guys. Get off that stinking dead bread. Check out Becoming a Millenite. Stop eating the dead bread. That's why you fat. I'm serious. I love you. But you guys are got to get in shape. We're all going to die in a serious way. It's okay. Y'all loves you. I love you. But we can do better, right? Just saying. Discipline. It's important. Tuck it away. Anyways, little blades. Ehud's blade was a cubit in length. 2 edges. Discreet. Strapped it to his inner thigh. He was a left-handed assassin. This is fundamentals here. He was left-handed because his right hand was probably not working the same as most people's. Either way, that's not normal. So he was an atypical asymmetric fighter. So he developed his own blades at home. This is one I made. Ice pick style from a screwdriver. Screwdrivers are way better for going through skulls of deer. You know what I'm saying? These get stuck. That's super awkward for what it's worth. Screwdrivers don't. This is an old screwdriver that I shoved inside a drill, and I ran into a cutoff wheel. What was that thing? Some kind of grinding stone. I used to have this 5-inch flywheel, terrifying tool, and I just shoved this thing in a drill, cut the handle off of it, shoved it in a drill, turned it on, spun it, and then just shot sparks all over the tiny little garage. That was a long time ago when I had a garage. It's been many, many years since I could tinker. That being said, I created this thing, which is a different kind of profile, which is more akin to a bolt, right, or a dart. More trained in dart craft. Anyways, and then I shoved this crazy little handle on it, and then I just soaked the entire thing in 30% vinegar acid solution. You bet. When I want to turn a blade from this color to this color, see how discreet that is? It's harder to detect that thing coming at your noggin. That's important. Like, you don't want that to always be shiny, noticeable. Because this kind of stuff, Like, this is super noticeable. People get scared when you pull out this size of a knife with that kind of shininess stuff, and they're like, that is what you don't want generally when you're trying to do silent killing, secret killing, and that kind of stuff. However, this is one of my favorite blades that I've never had before. This is a recent addition. Thank you, you mighty butcher of the West. I love this knife. Changed my paradigm entirely about this style of cold steel knives. This is their, let's see, Tall War. Yeah, son. Persian fighters. I like Persian fighter style blades. Anyways, this was one of the best gifts I've ever received in my life. This is a way to say I love you, Nathan. It works. And it makes me think about new paradigms of edginess. Anyways, I sharpened this one after I got it because it had been sharpened well, but there was an uneven grind to that edge, which makes it less capable of having a proper edge. So I sharpened it super well, and then I just decimated plants. Absolutely beautiful pollinator plants that I keep so that my honeybees are happy. Oh, the only problem with this one is the tri-axis lock, perhaps a tri-axis lock, is incredibly stiff. That's something to be worked on. But either way, the Tall War, fantastic. But when I pull this thing out of my crotch, people get super uncomfortable, and they're like, oh my, you know. That's designed to have that effect. And if you're going for that effect, that just the shock and awe, psychological warfare, and that like instant shock phase of things, that's fine. That's a tool. But when you want to take a blade like this and make it less scary for most people, you soak it in that acid. You soak it in highly concentrated. This is just vinegar. It's just vinegar. This is what I use for my laundry. You know, I use this and borax and baking soda. I don't use any of the garbage capsules that people sell you and try to tell you, hey, put a bunch of microplastic in your clothes. Then it can smell you at 400 yards, man. Not a good idea. When you want to be stealthy in the woods, guys, just go roll in dog poop and dead carcasses and squirrel piss and owl poop, puke pellets. Just tuck it away. And you use ash. You know, the white ash from your fire, then the charcoal, and then the clay. You know, I digress. It's a good way to get away from bloodhounds and people that are trying to track you with their creatures. Human nose can track better than the creature's noses. Did you know that? Your nose, if you learned how to train yourself, you can close your eyes and put on earmuffs and go ahead and start crawling around in the dark within 18 inches of the ground and shoving your face around like a dog does. You can outperform the dog sniffing, the dog sniffing dogs. You can outperform them. People outperform dogs all the time. The capacity of man is far better than any other thing they ever told you because it's not conducive to pass on the evolutionary garbage lies that they want to feed you and your children so that you'll conform to the beast system. You're not a beast. You're a beautiful creature made in the image of the Most High, for what it's worth. Anyways, when I want to take a knife and bring down some of that sheeny, scary, noticeable effect, you see, I can even see this in like, literally, I can see this thing bouncing light all over the stinking place. That's not good. Whereas a knife like this, like this spade, this is one of those Bastinelli knives, these things are made to be background noise, like discreet. It's not as noticeable, it's not as flashy, you can't really see it coming, that kind of stuff. You can take the shiny stuff and turn it dull with vinegar. You just boil vinegar. It's gonna stink. Your wife will not like that. Do it outside, like when you want to boil the carcasses of turtles and stuff like that, so you can have helmets and armor. Do that stuff outside. Otherwise, you don't have friends, or the kinds of friends you have, like dead stuff too, which is fun. It's great. Anyways, these are super sweet, so you can have them discreetly. The great power of the ulti clip, by the way. Don't mess around. The ulti clip. Full disclosure: this is the knockoff version. Bastinelli has these. Who's the other guy? Doug Mercada. I think this is one of their collaborations. Ace of Spades, like I was telling you, the death dealers. That's a whole other language. It's a sub-language for alchemical and death dealers and occultists and necromancers and all that stuff, right? It's bad. It's bad. Just saying. But it's how people communicate through signs and symbols and languages. And in that world, and people that are covenant of death people still, that's how they talk to each other and how they like body mark and stuff like that. But it's better to move away from that stuff. Just telling you. I was in the covenant with death for a long time. But now I found the covenant of life and peace in Yahuwah through the blood of the Lamb. For what it's worth. It was very beneficial for my life. So you guys can peruse it for yourself. I just encourage you, if you're ever going to, this is the choice I used. The scriptures. From Genesis to Revelation. Shocking. Read the whole thing front to back for yourself before you render an opinion about something so you can know, hey, no. And if you want to still be advocates for the kingdom of darkness, hey, go for it. Do mightily. Whatever you do it with all your heart, mind, soul, strength, and will. Seriously. Even if you're all in for evil, bro, be all in. Don't you dare be the dirty tricksters who are in the middle, masquerading as shepherds, poisoning and raping the flock. Because shepherds will come along and hunt you down and eradicate your seed from the earth. True story. Anyways, here's another wonderful one. This is the Mamba. This is another one. See all the blacked out features? Do you understand? The only thing that's shiny is that scary savage edge I put on there. Even the sheath. Okay, listen. Listen. Shh, shh, shh. Yes, this is beautiful. Retention. Okay? Doesn't come out unless I want it to come out. That's important. Your knife should never fall out of your crotch pants. Ever. Super fundamentals. It happens, and it's super embarrassing and awkward when it falls out when you're trying to take a poop in a bathroom and a super giant knife goes clattering to the ground. Or your gun. Dang, that's super more awkward, too. It's happened. I had a Glock 19 fall directly out of my pants and do the little rattle battle. But it was in a, sketchy truck stop gas station, so it worked out okay. But either way, it's an awkward conversation when your concealed carry piece starts rolling around. Holsters are important. Active self-protection YouTube channel. Change your life forever. You can go ahead and see everything playing out in real life. You can watch people from CCTV footage actually going through fight for their life death encounters. People using guns, people using tasers, people using mace, people using knives, people using machetes, people using swords, people using cars, all kinds of stuff. Good guys winning, bad guys losing, bad guys winning, good guys losing. All the variables and in between. And I mean, it is 100% reality graphic. But I think of anybody online that I know of who has evaluated more, I don't think there's anybody that's evaluated more actual footage of those near-death encounters, actual death encounters, and everything in between than him. He has a great little advisory page about holsters and about the practical application of the effectiveness of mace, pepper spray, of less lethal tools, little knuckle dusters and stuff like that, brass knuckles, all that kinds of stuff, but also like tasers, understanding the difference between somebody who wears certain types of clothing that are non-conductive, like layered linen or carbon fiber. It'll stop a taser right away. Can I show you something from my goodie bag? How about we go to the back of the bag? That's my body armor. I made it. It's made out of linen. Dadgummit, you ever heard of the linothorax? Probably not, because you didn't read. If you did, I don't mean to insult you. I have an episode called Making the Kingly Armor. And I put a bunch of sapphire crystals in there, too, to help stop for the kinetic penetrators and all the rest of that stuff. Stuff that goes like this. My favorite other goodie bags. Yeah, that's the 5.0 Sun Savage Match stuff. Then there's these things. Yeah, these are less common these days. They're kind of frowned upon, whatever. Gotta love the Southerners. Let's see. You can see that pretty well. Let's see. There you go. See what that is? That's like a Sabo round. So that's a neck down 30-30. It's a 30-30. And then it's neck down. See that? It's got a lead tip one in there. But that's so it's got a lot higher velocity. Then you got your 30-30 brush gun, and you're able to shoot 600-800 yards. When people are like, well, that's unsportsmanlike. You can't have that kind of power in your little brush gun, son. No. We're going to go ahead and make that illegal. Well, when you come from the world of no rules apply, none of it matters. Look up National Security Council and other government agencies. Anyways, that's the guys who give me stuff like that. They're super fun. They're interesting characters. Where's the other one I was looking for? I got a magnetic tray full of all kinds of goodies. This is the real fun one. Yeah. Inside that's a 50 black tip. These are, there's a super special little thing inside there called a tungsten penetrator right inside there. Little bustier of deliciousness coming through that thing. That'll punch right through some serious amounts of armor. So you're trying to defeat stuff like that. You need something equally or exceedingly more hard. That's where ceramics come in. But my favorites, I'm super biased, is sapphire because it's super biblical. It's just delicious and wonderful. And it cracks bullets. It's beautiful. And it's readily cheap. You can literally find it. It's a rock. Comes out of the ground. You don't have to have some ballistic lab to make it. You don't have to get it from, the advanced military suppliers who are putting it on our F-35 Lightning fighter jets on their optics platforms. They make perfectly clear crystal sapphires. artificially out of aluminum oxide. And they put that on the lenses of, you know, Apache attack helicopters, the longbow. You know, they put it on the optics of Bradley fighting vehicles and tanks and stuff that's got like a really important piece of lenses that they don't want, like the sniper pod that's getting upfitted onto like the F-15, the new F-15, the super savage upgrade. Gosh, I love the F-15. Freaking love it. Pratt and Whitney, savage slayers, bro. Engines of glory. I digress. Anyways, the new sniper pods for targeting, ground targeting targets on the ground. You know what I'm talking about, you guys? And when you want to drop some kind of savage ordnance on a little creature masquerading as a man on the ground, and you want to just do that from a long ways away, the F-15 has these sniper pods that are put onto it. It sounds like fun. It's not a sniper rifle. It's a targeting system. FLIR, you know, for being able to look through infrared clouds and stormy weather and stuff like that. Anyways, the optics that are on there that to maneuver around the targeting pods, they can use a laser designator to pair with the bomb that they're going to drop to direct it onto that specific target to make that little colloquialism come to fruition. That glass that's on these things is corundum. It's sapphire, okay? That sapphire is so hard that when they fly through sandstorms, the glass doesn't get scratched. You know, it's like the surface of your watch. Better watches have sapphire glass. You should have that. Just trust me. My other one is a marathon watch. Just look into it. They're all blacked out for a reason, and they got tritium vials for a reason, and they have sapphire glass for a reason because they're tough. They're a field watch. Anyways, when you're trying to like stop a bullet, sapphire, son. You can just buy corundum, bulk corundum for super cheap, and then you can literally line your chest with that, and it will shatter bullets. A better method, that's super low tech, obviously. Better method is to buy the plates and go ahead and make dragon scaled plate armor out of it. It would work great. I digress. I'm lost in the weeds here on armor. But hopefully some of you guys are having a terrific time. Others of you are just like, what the heck? You just crawled inside Nathan Reynolds' brain. It's sketchy in there, and it's full of all kinds of deadly booby traps, full of sharp stuff. It's fun. But I have conversations like this with other people, and they seem to moderately enjoy it. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put to death the fear of man and be moderately embarrassed of the fact that this is what I like to do at night. You know, it's fun. What the heck? People bored us and raised us to be slaves. It sucks. And they never did any of this fun stuff. Did anybody in your class ever give you knives for memorizing stuff? No. They're like, congratulations, you got an A-. You're like, thanks. No wonder why they're on drugs. No wonder why they're like addicted to TikTok. You guys, nobody gave them a stinking knife. Hey, to those of you that are watching this, you know what I'm saying? I send knives out to people. Super sharp, scary, awesome knives. Great knives to people that do prodigious book reports. You ready for this? You go to my recommended reading playlist, checklist, snatchfromtheflames.com, resources tab. Click that. Recommended reading. I've got a lot of books on there. If you read one of those books and you write me a book report on it, there's a lot. There's hundreds on there. So you can have your pick. There's all kinds of stuff on, you know, like the farming thing, the homestead thing, the regenerative agriculture thing, the polypermaculture stuff. There's all that. There's all kinds of stuff on government-sponsored mind control. There's stuff on the occult Satanists and all the other, you know, tidbits of giblets of all the psychopaths that run the world. There's all kinds of pertinent pieces of information about historicity of archaeology and lost time and all that stuff. Anyways, if you go on there and you read one of those books and then you send me a book report, snatched from the flames at protonmail.com, bro, I will send you a savage knife that I've personally sharpened. I can't say it will be one of the, I don't have the moolah son to send you the name brand son. So I'll send you a knockoff, okay? There's all things could change. Anyways, I'll send you a knockoff of some savage little knife that I like, one that I like and is actually beneficial. Until the day. Here's another one. See, like this one. This is another one that comes from that kind of world. See, these are the scary stuff. See, all black. See, do you notice common features here? All black. Lock in your finger for ring retention. This is so that when somebody does a knuckled punch on a nerve cluster of your forearm to get you to drop something, or they try to do another one on your upper here in this area, you know, like, to try to dead arm you and that kind of stuff, or they want to shove a dagger and needle point you through a nerve cluster up here to make you disarm. You know, guys that know what they're doing. That stuff. This helps it to stay in your hand even when your hand no longer functions because you have such a high amount of adrenocortisol, like just pumping through you, and norepinephrine and epinephrine, and just all the byproducts of fight for your life feelings that happen in everyone. Your hands go numb. Best way to train, if you want to know actually how you're going to do out there, shove your hands in ice water for 10 minutes. I know most of you can't do that. It's hard for me to do that. Shove your hands in that ice water for 10 stinking minutes and then do your gross motor skills of operation. There's a reason I carry knives that have rings, because even after all is said and done, the thump of the heart, man, can change you forever and change you fundamentally in how good you think you are at fine motor skills. Like pushing tiny buttons to do a reload suddenly become impossible tasks because you're suddenly holding mittens. So gross motor skills are far more advantageous in fight for your life scenarios. Watch active self-protection videos and see what I'm talking about. You'll see people, trained people, drop stuff, fundamentally critical stuff. The reason ring knives exist, the reason these things like what Bastinelli designs into his features is so that it stays in your hand and somebody basically has to take your hand off to get it out of your hand. That's an incredibly important feature, and it allows you to go ahead and do little things like a knuckle duster or whatever if you've got to. If you can be less lethal and strike somebody on their orbiter so that you take out one of their tools, you know, that kind of stuff. But fundamentally, that's more of the purpose for a blade like this when it comes to the handle shape, okay? That's what those features are for. This one is in line with that, okay? It's got these little tiny features to hold it into your fingers and then go ahead and orient that blade. I have schmedium hands. Some of you bigger pod guys are going to have this kind of hand shape, right? It's like that little hawkbill thing sticking out, karambits, okay? These are get-off-me blades predominantly. These are used to like hook into somebody's orbiter or into the lateral parts of the joints into joint lock, stuff like that. When you get into a joint lock with a karambit, it's just horrific. Just horrific. Anyways, anything that curves, the blades that curve are pulling material into them. Like when you want to cut fruit off a tree, pruning hooks, pruning knives. That's what those all features are for. But the sheath on this is actually good enough to be worn around your neck. That's why this one's on the list for like, you betcha. I'll totally approve that one. I don't use these ball chains because you hear all that crap noise. Stuff that makes me want to throw a stinking rock out of a building. This is how I do it. Almost all of mine, you'll notice that almost all of mine have leather. I like leather. I like natural materials. I'm super biased and obnoxious psychopath when it comes to natural fibers. Leather is great because it has a known breaking point. I don't use generally paracord and breakaway beads. Lots of guys will do that for their neck knives, and I totally understand that. I'm all for them doing that thing. But there's a reason guys like me carry cordage. And it's not to tie up a flat tire or, you know, hang stuff from. Well, you use to hang stuff from sometimes. Sometimes you got to hang stuff from it. But slip knots are great. Either way, there's a known breaking point for this, right? So let's see. Ready? Shall we? Let's go ahead and see the benefit of the garrote. There it was. That's the known breaking point. Probably about 30 pounds. Okay? That's the known breaking point for that cordage. Let me show you on this little creature. Here's the cheap one that came for free in the mail. Sometimes you can order these things direct for like $5, $3, $2. Dang it, Temu and AliExpress. You don't need Amazon, you guys. You can use it. But these ball chain things, these noisy, obnoxious things. Watch. Ready? Let's see what we had. Oh, sorry. Hang in there. Spot test. Probably like 6 pounds, 5 pounds. And the draw of that knife, just drawing a knife out of its holster. Like mine is 8 pounds. That's 8 pounds just for me to pull this thing out. I have these little fishing scales that I sit there and check it with because 7 to 12 pounds is like the goal for a holstex or a holster that's made out of kydex. You want a 7 to 12 pound pull. That's what it should be. When you get more than that, it's awkward because you're really having a He-Man it, and then you're putting more strain on your neck than is necessary. And so those breakaway beads need to be able to supersede that power, but then break away before they get there. I like that cow leather because it's exactly at the rate at which I'm like a bit He-Man in it, which is great. If I need to really get out of my neck knife, I'm going to get out of the neck knife, son. I've been caught in a tree, like Absalom in the tree style with my neck knife occasionally. But good thing I brought the knife. Problem solved, right? Anyways, for what it's worth, I like the leather. It's quiet. You can dye it black if you want to, but brown is more socially acceptable to people, and they tend to be a lot less thinking that it's scary when it's some kind of brown leather thing around your neck. And they're like, oh, is that some cute little necklace? And you're like, yes, it is. It's also a very effective tool for cutting fruit. Anyways, this was another gift. I'm going to send you on to a rabbit trail of glory. You ready for this one? Let's see. I'm just giving you all the blades in one day. Maybe we will. Screw it. It's late night. I got no alarm. Yeah. Omisio? This is brand new to me. I've never seen this before. This thing showed up in my life a week ago. But I love it. Stinking love it. And I bet this is... Sorry, I broke my microphone. Along with that cordage. If you want cordage that doesn't break like that, DuPont. Dadgummit. You gotta name one of the families here for a second and give them props for the Kevlar. Kevlar. Aramad. A-R-A-M-I-D? M-A-D? Aramad fibers. You gotta respect it when somebody puts out a pretty high quality product like that. They make Kevlar cordage. It's super cheap. It also doesn't melt the same, you know, so you can use it to cut your way out of zip ties. Pop your way through the zip ties. So, like, that's what my shoelaces are made of, and another guy's shoelaces are made of. But to most creature human people, they'd be like, oh, those are very nice little shoes you're wearing there. And you're like, you betcha, creature. Now, anyways, those kinds of fibers will last. They will last. They will not break. You can He-Man 450 pounds, 850. You can He-Man. And it ain't going nowhere, son. Great for snares. The leather, though, has a nice breaking point because that's what it's designed to do. But this little neck knife is fantastic. I love it. You can index it properly. It's got a single finger guard so that when you go ahead and stab into a tree, that's the way to test if the blade's going anywhere in your hand. Just stab it into a tree hard. I mean, like you're trying to get all the way through the tree. Give it that. That's the test. If your knife does not slip out of your hand at all, squared away, son. Most of you are going to figure out, though, that's a scary test because if you're wrong, what happens is your index finger slides up onto that ridiculously sharp cutting edge, and you've just ended tendon game in your most important digit of your life, okay? This area of cutting, when you cut this area here or anywhere along here, boy howdy are you going to have a really rough day, and you may never be able to make that shape or that function ever again the same. You'll meet some guys that got that wrong, and their fingers look different forever. Sorry, I'm trying to run this entire operation from a picnic table. No excuses. Just get it done. This picnic table has been with me for many years. Many years, this picnic table. It survived me. Most things don't. If I'm showing you something that survived me, hats off, son. It's a good one. Let me show you a little bit bigger one that survived me. I had to redo the sheath because the sheath was junk. Leather sheaths don't survive my edges. Nope, not a little bit. Ooh, that doesn't sound good. Oh, I hate that feeling. That's a piece of grit getting between my ridiculous edge and something that shouldn't move. Oh, anyways, I did copper pins and rivets. You see that? Let me just slow down a little bit because this came from, I don't know, what is this? Windlass Cobra Steel. Are you noticing some edge geometry consistencies, you guys? You see the recurve shape? It's for cutting flesh. Understand it. That's what that's for. It's highly effective. It's great for cutting branches and trees and all the other limbs that people want to talk about, but that's what it's for. These are weapons of war. You can use them constantly, 99% of the time, just for regular brush clearing and machete clearing and all the rest of it. This is a really good one. I actually really do enjoy this one. It's one of the best 65, 80 bucks I've ever spent. Was it Atlanta Cutlery? Atlantic? Or Atlanta Cutlery. Anyways, they got all kinds of genuinely pretty reasonably priced quality stuff. Like the sneaky thing that's over my shoulder. The umbrella. The umbrella with secrets inside. That's all I'm going to leave it at, guys. That's an urbanite camouflage tool. Hidden blades, baby. Anyways, Cobra Steel. What is this? They're windlass. They make some of my favorite stuff. Let's see. Windlass. Oh, come on. We're going to make friends here with the camera. We'll figure out how to do these things. Windlass, made in India. Oh yeah, there it says fight the good fight. You guys see I did micro scroll. I got a little tungsten bit Dremel that'll do engraving because I want to write the words and the crazy stuff all over my blades. It's fun. Let's see, what did I put on this one? I'll read it to you. This one says, guard the commandments of Yahuwah your Elohim, to walk in his ways and revere him. Proclaim the word. Be urgent in season and out of season. Convict, warn, appeal, with all patience and teaching. The master shall rescue me from every wicked work and save me for his heavenly reign. Fight the good fight. And on this side, let's see, the reverse side says, Yah reigns forever. There is no creature hidden from Yahuwah's sight. That's my own little works on there. Anyways, I have a dream of having a laser etcher and engraver that can just do the entire micro print of entire chapters and books onto my blades, and it'd just be so savage. Because you can sit down and break bread and read the word together, and people are all like, oh, why'd you bring that machete into our church? And I'll be like, you ever read Hebrews 4? The word of Elohim is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing through to the bone and the marrow, to separating the soul from the spirit, is the discerner of the thoughts and the intentions of the hearts of man. All creatures are laid bare before its sight, laid naked before its sight. That's a super savage story about what the word is. And then people read that passage, and they don't even have a stinking knife around. It's embarrassing. And they don't even have a sharp knife around to give people the proper metaphor. I show up to children's churches, and I'm all like, give me a pineapple. Let's go do David and Goliath. I'm going to cut the head off of this pineapple right by that bite, like straight up next to the guy's head. I love that. I missed. I wish I'd got the guy's head. Pervert. Anyways, check out my Colts video for more information on those perverts. I digress. You don't kill people you know. Fundamentals. You never threaten somebody. Fundamentals. There's like certain rules to live by. Those are chief of them. Oh, for what it's worth. People are going to be like, what about Romans 12:19 where it says, vengeance is mine, says Yahuwah? I'll be like, what about the 1,800 other verses about him saying, go execute my vengeance on this person, this kingdom, that person, put them all to death, spare not man, woman, child, animal, beast, creature, not. People are like, yeah, but that was then, this is now. I'm like, what about when he's going to be drenched in blood and we're going to be standing there cheering him on, saying, great are you, and awesome are you, and just are you, and righteous are you? See, you got to understand, most of you have been sissified and raised by cowards so that you would just be incompetent sheep to your slaughter. I'm just saying, most pastors don't know how to raise shepherds. They themselves are sheep, and it sucks. They bred all the shepherds right out of the flock, and they're like, we don't want no shepherds in these churches. That would be dangerous because these people would be well-equipped and well-armed and well-capable of defending themselves from intellectual dishonesty. And we can't have none of that because then they're a lot harder to control. That's why they put you in the education system, so that you would be subservient slaves to the masters of Belial, the sons of Belial, who operate out of Little Rome on the Potomac, known as Washington, D.C. Anyways, I digress. Let's see. How's this thing going on? 39 gigabytes. Fantastic. That'll take 4 days to upload. Well, there you go, you guys. That's some of my way of the blade. It's been a while. It feels good to talk to you guys. I'm going to put on my other hat so you can see what I look like with a hat on, because that's one of my urbanites that most people never see. They're like, Nathan Reynolds in jeans and a t-shirt? I'm like, I've got a lot of outfits in my bag. See, the whole world is very different when it's tunnel visioned out of a black hat like this. It's just quite interesting. But it's good. When you got to go into the city slicker world, you know what I'm talking about? The place where the urbanite creatures live. You got to be able to put on the camouflage of what the people like to see and expect to see and is normal to see so that you can blend in and get the job done, like just going to Costco, getting groceries, and getting back to the homestead. You know what I'm saying? Because this feature, which I genuinely love, straw hats. They're fantastically functional when you work out in the blazing heat of the day. These straw hats are marvelous. I love them. They don't make me have the just swampiness and misery and anger and frustration and rage like I feel when I'm wearing polyester and nylon. I like feathers. I like birds because they're also assassins. Praise Yah for the hunters. And these are my bird feathers, you know. We raise flocks. We've got exotic flocks. We got a bird sanctuary. I love it. I love to raise deadly creatures, camouflaged like chickens. Chickens are deadly, son. They'll pluck your eye out and you'll never see it coming. Anyways, that's a non-urbanite. That's not urbanite camouflage. Do you get what I'm saying? Urbanite camouflage is people like wearing suits and jackets and ties, but only in certain urban environments. In other ones, you're going to look like a weirdo, bro. You're going to stand out every day of the week. But when you want to go into the tunnel systems, you know, like I went to go to Best Buy. I'm just going to name drop this one for you. I went to go to Best Buy because I wanted to try on headphones in person, in flesh, because I kept trying all these ones from Amazon. What the heck? Let me see. Where are they? Anyways, I was trying to find the right pair of headphones, and I'm a freak of a man because I love a very particular kind of things. I'm almost always perpetually wet, especially between the months of what? Anytime it's hot outside or over 68 degrees, I better be soaking wet or I'm miserable and angry. And you'll never like me when I'm angry. No, I'm serious. Ask my children. It sucks. It's reality. I'm not a great man all the time. You know what I'm saying? Real dad talk. Shockingly embarrassed as how grumpy of a man I can be since I had children. I used to not be so angry, and then I had children, and all the crap in my soul came just flooding to the surface and just pooped all over everyone. I'm like, hey, guess what? I'm miserable inside. Now you know. That's how I actually feel when I'm sleep deprived, and I'm hungry, and I'm tired, and I'm exhausted, and I don't want to change your stupid poopy diaper. Freaking hate this. Oh, yeah. That's real inside Nate talk time. Raising children is the hardest thing I have ever done. Ain't that the reality? It brought out the worst of me. It brought out some of the best that was also locked up in the worst, which is great. But boy, did it piss me off. No one will make you grumpier than your children. They're the best thing too. But generally for me, that's not until they're like 18 months old. Other than that, they're just torture factories for me. I love them. I know some of you are appalled at the way I'm speaking about children, but it's reality. Climb inside my head of memories and understand what it's like to have eidetic memory, where everything is always there perpetually. And understand what I experienced as normalcy for child life, you know, and all the perversions and perverts and psychopaths that raised me and taught me what sexuality was as an infant. Not a good time to introduce children to that kind of stuff, but it did, and it sucked, and it ruined me, and it marred me forever. I know, you guys are like, you're a new man, you're a new creature. Shut up. I know. I'm aware cognizantly of what these statements are and what the word says about my identity and my character and my calling and my purpose and the newness of mind and all these facets and features. What you don't understand is what happens when a baby screams is still physically a reality for a dad. Like, you still got to be inside a one-room house with all the children and twins screaming, and nobody is there to save you. Dead serious. You still got to suck it up and deal with that horrible hell known as screaming trauma. You're like, gosh dang it, why do they make so much noise? I know I'm a loud man. So are they. All my children are loud, and we're in tiny spaces. So, behind the scenes, see, let me let you into the realities of what it's like in Nateville. People that live around us, they know this, and they're like, wow, we didn't realize it was like this with you. Okay, this is like one of my bags I carried forever. Let's see. Maxpedition. I like Maxpedition. They make tough stuff. This backpack has been with me for 15 years, son. Oh, the first year it came out. I don't know. What was the first year it came out? I could look it up. Probably 2012. You know, when I got reactivated. Ugh. That's an awkward conversation you have to have with your wife. Sorry, honey. People that knew me better than you did used me for horrible things again while we were married. Sorry to say that. It's better to confess that stuff to your wife than to burn in despair and guilt and self-condemnation. That's life. Anyways, Maxpedition came into my life. Great stuff. Good quality. These bags are fantastic. I love them. They're magazine dump pouches. They call them roly-polies, like the little creature bugs that you can show your children when you're being the dad dude. But they have a little one. It's a mini roly-poly. Where did I put him? He's normally on my side, but I took him off to show you. Oh, there he is. This is my preferred one, but this still screams moderately tactable. This is not invisible. For those of you guys that are part of the Invisible College and you're watching from afar and you're trying to trade craft stuff and you want to understand how to do low pro and invisible pro and stuff like that, understand I'm trying to swing. I'm trying to send the tsunami so that everybody can get watered tonight. But This is not invisible college stuff. This is clearly stuff that obviously identifies you as moderately tactical. Mini roly-poly, though, can be rolled up. Let's dump this thing out. I'm not going to show you everything in there because some of that is still my secrets. Anyways, Maxpedition, they make these little roly-poly bags. They can fold up, and you can tuck this little flap over itself so that when you're running like a little gypsy in the wind, all your stuff doesn't fall out, and you can cinch it tight with these little drawstrings. Mostly what I use this for is collecting treasures. True story. I don't do a lot of I don't do the killing right now. Praise Yah, kind of. I'm bored. But I find treasures like this and I'm suddenly enthused and I realize that it's great to have stuff like this. It's great. And my son, gosh, I love him. He's finally a child. You know what I'm saying? Dad, you're going to get this. Some of you are laughing. How rare. You know it. You know it because the baby thing just sucks. You just do your time like you're in a prison cell and you're like, gosh, dang it. Someday you're going to be more than just this screaming, puking, pooping nightmare. All you do is ruin my life. I love you. You don't say all these things out loud, you know, because people are like, oh, your mouth is out blessings and curses and all this other stuff, right? The Christian easy things they throw in your face when you're already feeling like trash. That stuff. Anyways, I live with these on my person in continuity of time and memorial. Good ones, 32 decibel minimums. Because my son can scream louder than Jericho walls fell. Dead serious, bro. Super Nephilim screams. Anyways, roly-poly these things. Opposing ear. Slide that sucker in. Sweet Moses of the Mississippi. Relief is on its way. That's how I've survived 8 years with children. I'm just being super honest. This is what my life is like. I'm like, oh, hello, family. Goodbye, sound. I can hear just fine. You know what I can hear? My internal conversations much more readily. And I can hear less of their screams, causing that horrible, shrill nightmare. You know? I describe it to people like this. People that have hearing aids. When a little child screams in their ear and they go, oh, that's what's been inside my ear since I was born. Heightened, enhanced sensors inside my ears. Just my eardrums are better. I can still hear lots of things that most humans can't. You know, like ultrasonics. You know, when you want to whistle to each other on a team and you got a special ultrasonic whistles, the only people that can hear that are people that can hear ultrasonic or guys that have amplification, right? That's a whole other tool entirely. But I was going to Best Buy because I was trying to solve the riddle of how can I not always live with earplugs in my ears, but how I can use modified microphone earplugs that have shutoffs in them, okay? If you guys didn't know about this, there's this whole other world out there about shooting and firearms, and one of them is enhanced microphone earmuffs, you know, these over-the-ear Mickey Mouse style things that go up and over, and then they got other ones that go around your neck. Always go with the around your neck one. Just trust me, you'll thank me later. Around your neck one so that you can actually, you know, put your optics up to your eye appropriately and get a proper sight picture. Fundamentals, you guys. Oh, fundamentals. Anyway, stuff you don't realize till you go to shoot your nice ACOG in the rifle that you generally don't use all the time. And you're like trying to use these Mickey Mouse shooter muffs and you're like, what the heck? What the heck? You know, in the military, this is what we got issued, you know, because they're cheap. And then they thank you, the United States military, for getting it from the lowest bidder and making a bunch of soldiers deaf. Congratulations. Your medical benefits are denied. Welcome to the hell of the U.S. military after the fact. Ugh. Could talk a long time about it. I love you guys that are in there. Just you understand the bureaucracy of how much they crap on your face when you get out and you're no longer their favorite guy. Awful. Awful. They systematically murder them off, make them kill themselves. It's another story. Anyways, I needed to try to fix the story of getting some hearing protection for my ears that also had amplified microphones so I could pick up and listen to things that I was stalking in the darkness still, like raccoons that are coming in here and I'm going to murder them. You know, I don't like anything coming near there. I'm a shepherd's son. Stuff dies when it comes onto my property and violates the rules, the social contract of we're cool as long as you don't touch anything that's in mine category of life, you know? Otherwise, I'm going to stalk you in the darkness and cut your throat. So anyways, I was stalking raccoons in the night, and I was getting annoyed because I had gone from the loud, crazy, insane zone known as my children, and I went out into the depths of darkness chasing a raccoon with a spear. And I was annoyed at the fact that I needed to stop and take my earplug out. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to get the enhanced ones. So I went and spent $450 on like the best ones made by Otto, OTTO. Yeah. And anyways, some great ones that came in a little case like this. And they had a little microphone in them that would shut off over, I don't know, maybe 25 decibels, 30 decibels. And it would shut off at any kind of sound like that. It would just turn off. And it was amazing. The problem was they didn't have a microphone in them, so I couldn't hook them up to my phone and actually make phone calls and stuff like that. And so I've gone through so many different wired headphones over my life because I'm always soaking wet and I'm always ruining everything, you know, because I jump in cold water every time I'm grumpy because it's hot, which is most of the time. So instead, I was like, I got to go find me some headphones. So I put on the urbanite camouflage. I was going into the city, and I was like, you know what? Put on the city slicker clothes. That's like the button down. So that's the no name, no label button downs. Generic. Works great. Can cover up your kit and hide all the kind of stuff in your goodie bags that you're carrying, you know, because you don't want everybody to see that you're carrying a Winkler and all the rest of it. So you put that stuff on. And I went into the city, you know, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to Best Buy. I'm going to go check out and try out a bunch of headphones and see if any of these things actually fit my ear and don't fall off when I'm running at full tilt, because I go from 0 to instantly running like my life depends on it all day long, every day. And I don't like anything to fall out of my ears. And those little auto earbud things were falling out constantly. And then they were so expensive, I was like freaking out. I was like, Abraham, Big Thunder, move. Where did he go? Where did he go? And I try to sick him on it. He's great at finding stuff, and he tucks it into my bag. We now have a game. We're getting better. We're getting this whole relationship, you know, that thing happening that sons and fathers should have and all the rest of it. Like, he's finally like my Big Thunder, and we can do stuff together. But up until this point, he has just been the catastrophic screaming thing that just tortures my soul. But you know what? Praise Yah, we made it through. We did our time. And now we got a son. Yes. People are like, aren't you so happy you have a son? I'm like, all he does is punish me. Oh, yes, I'm happy. I'm just not liking him very much. I love him. I do not like him. Now I like him and I love him. It's wonderful. It's a great relationship. He brings me treasures. Today he brought me this. Citrine. Yeah, I bait the beach all over my property with gemstones. I make sure my children have great treasures. I scatter them in the wind for them to find, and then they bring them to me. Like this. I'm like, bring me a lighter, son. I take all the safety locks off of everything because, you know what, if my children aren't trained to handle that thing, I shouldn't have that thing available to my children. So, anyways, I digress. That's what this one's for. Yeah, you got to have a safety on that axis. This is SOG knife. SOG, Special Observations Group. The sneaky psychological operations teams and special operators from the Vietnam. Go ahead and read some history. Great stuff. Anyways, they make blades for people that like, you know, blacked out, murdered out blades and stuff like that. This is unusual. It's got green. I bought it at a pawn shop for a discount, knowing that I was going to give it to somebody in particular who likes this kind of color feature pattern, and I love them, and I want them to know that they are a warrior, and I care about them, and this one's coming their way. But before it gets them, I go ahead and patina it, and I go ahead and sharpen it. So you're not going to get a new knife from me ever. It better be sharp, because otherwise it's stupid. It's embarrassing. Not to anyone else besides the person who used it. Anyways, back to the Best Buy story. I'm throwing a bunch of stuff into the air so we see what we bat down. I go to Best Buy, and I park in a parking lot that's near Best Buy because I saw a police officer, and I immediately went into urbanite mode. You know what I'm talking about? Which is just act natural. You drive a minivan, and everybody thinks you're a soccer dad. Never look in the trunk. Nobody looks in the dirty diaper cavities of the trunk. I'm telling you, tested it out, son. It's great. It works super well. I understand. I don't do bad illicit activities, right? I just don't want everybody seeing what my goodie bag looks like, or my grab bag, or my go bag, or any of the other redundancy dry bags and silent bags and all the rest of it that I keep in there are. The best camouflage I ever found in my life was a minivan. Hallelujah. Praise Yah for minivans. All the dads that have minivans are like, dang right, dude. Get out of the stupid SUV life. Get a minivan. Way more practical. I don't care if you have 0 children. Nobody looks at you when you have a silver or whitish looking minivan. You blend into the herd. Don't get anything that's not a Honda or a Toyota if you can help it. Please just trust me. Tuck it away. It might save your stinking frustration future. Got a lot on my chest on that category. I spent way too much time researching the minivans. I chose wisely. Still burning, baby. Anyways, I see this police officer, and I'm like, oh, I'd rather not have that guy immediately on my rear end because he's about to turn, and he's going to be immediately behind me. So I immediately take a turn into that parking lot and just act natural. And then I park in the depths of the outer parts of the parking lots like anybody normally does who comes from my world and wants to be able to see for a long ways who's following them, you know. the pull through that blocks multiple cars parking spots so that I got all kinds of coverage on both sides. I got a median on one side and I got the ability to go over the median on the front end. Basic tradecraft stuff, whatever. Anyways, I parked there and now I'm, a couple hundred yards away from the store I actually want to get to. So I opened the door. And when I opened the door, I'm greeted with this wonderful fragrant aroma that's known as the underworld instantly. And I don't have my family with me, so I can suddenly be a free man again. And I'm like, yes, I'm going underground immediately. This is why I carry 3 flashlights on my persons at all times, because 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Well, 3 is even better. So I carry this little guy because he's also highly effective for psychological operations when you need to do that kind of stuff on people. People have been brainwashed and patterned for a long time to do certain things when certain light colors show up in their life. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, you'll see it, right? People see, let me show you. Ready? Watch. There's this certain effect that it's hard to see in this light. See, people have been taught for a long time to immediately change their physical behavior because of 2 colors blinking. That one. I'm not advocating you use this to do anything type of illicit. Just understand, this color effect rapidly affects people's behavior, okay? This little tiny little light, I don't use it for that. It just has that feature on it, right? Coincidentally. But you can change it and select it to all kinds of different colored features, right? That's the one I use it for almost exclusively, which is the red light, right? We talked about this before, okay? But then it has all kinds of other features for like when you're running and doing all kinds of stuff at night, like you should be. Just go for a walk at night, peruse your neighborhood, get to know your neighbors, be that guy. It has a red blinking feature, so you can put it on the back of your helmet or your hat or your super thick woolly mammoth Nazarite hair, and you can hang that thing in there and be able to be seen by cars when you need to be seen. And then it has a green light feature. This is great. This is another Nitecore creature. NU something, NU06, something like that. Anyways, you can look it up for yourself. Be resourceful. Be studious. See, then it has green blinking. Then it has true light, which is great for working with bomb wires. And then you have white light, blue light kind of stuff, blue light stuff, blue blinking, then red, blue. And it just rotates through this pattern until you select the one you want. You're like, I want green. Then you let go. And then you push it again, turn it off. Push it again for a long hold, and then it'll rotate through the lights until you get to the one that you want, This one is fantastic for being able to tell the actual color of what you're looking at. They call it like true light. That's an important one. So like when you're actually trying to look at something and want to know what you're really looking at, that'll be more like ombre sunlight. This whiter light, which you're more used to by staring at all the blue screens. Ready? Go. Now, that one is obviously much easier to see stuff with, generally. Anyways, I had this on my person. What did I have? The other one. Let's see. We had the big boy, the big spotter, because this thing has a savage battery, a 21600 battery, big thunderous battery. This one's for my long times. Like I want to be able to keep a light on for 4 days. This one's it. It's a 5300 milliamp battery, NL2153 HP high power. This thing will crank out max continuous discharge 20 amps. That's like, you know what I'm talking about, you guys? Your Milwaukees, your DeWalt 20. Like, dude, this thing was freaking savage. Duration, maximum 90 seconds. So we can put out that super high, bright light, but not for too long because it gets hot because this thing is a small grenade. Anyways, that's a really good light, but I can run it on super low light for a long time. So when I go in caves and tunnels just unexpectedly to go ahead and try to map out another underworld boss, I use that light, okay? But my little tiny sneaky red light, that's the one. I love this guy. And I always put it on the back of my flashlights for what it's worth. Electrical tape. I bite the back of my flashlights all the time to hold them in my mouth. And so I had to put on there, whoop, electrical tape. A nice tight wrapping of electrical tape. You take this thing off. You got to do it carefully without bending the clips, because that's always a break point for some of these things. This is a moderately newer one. Okay, you take that off. It's real important. You take that thing off, and then you wrap that thing super tight on there. So that way when you go to put your flashlight in your mouth, like everybody does, because it's important to be able to be hands-free, then you can do that without it hurting your teeth. And sometimes you need a little bit of tape to tape up stuff, like, a door jamb, like people when they think they have security of their doors locking. The illusion of security. You can put a little piece of tape right over that thing, so you can get that effect of it sounding like it's closing when they close the door. That it still sounds like it closed, so they don't suddenly turn around to check the door, but then it doesn't close all the way. so that you can gain access to it later on at a time that's more opportune time, right? Anyways, that's one of those things that electrical tape is beneficial for because it doesn't leave a lot of residue, right? Yeah, I'm just saying. And it's black, which tends to not draw attention, right? You can use clear. Clear is also beneficial in that circumstance, but you got to be careful with clear. And you got to make sure that you're not leaving fingerprints, obviously. I digress. Anyways, I went into this. Well, I didn't even get that far in the story. I had 3 different lights on me at the time. I also carry another one in my backpack. Goodie bag. The bag of possibilities. This is the one I had forever. I still have to say, I don't think they make this anymore. It's hard to find. Anyways, I love this one because of these 3 colored light features and the infinity bar, so that when my hands are super numb from all the adrenaline dump, or they're super cold because it's 19 degrees below zero, I can immediately go to different lights. Immediate change of actual lights. It's beautiful. And how bright it is. I love that thing. The weakness of this thing is that if you bump this in your bag, you leave it on, you ruin yourself. You can charge it. It's moderately waterproof. IXP 6.7 or 6.8 is essential for me. Nothing on my person cannot be waterproof. Submergible for at least a meter. 2 meters is ideal because I'm perpetually wet. Remember? It's called wet works for a reason. On the other side of this is their newer one, which I've been waiting a long time for, which is their, what is this thing? HC65. Come on. Yes. Go there. Stop looking at my eyes. HC65 UHE. Yes, Nitecore. Ultra high emissions. I don't know. Anyways, it's designed to go into chemically crazy environments, caustic environments, places like a mine shaft. Most of what I have to buy for my gear and my equipment is stuff that's designed for like subterranean explorers, spelunkers, and miners, and people that do like wet works for the military. You know, they're just in water, stuff like that. Anyways, this thing. I love this thing. It's got all kinds of different features, including true light. Let's see. There's the true light. You're not going to be able to detect any of this stuff because it's just looking ubiquitously like a light. But there you go. There's red light, of course, and 2 different levels of red light, low and high, which is fantastic because that's important. And blinking for all those people that want to be able to notify other people that there's a human creature walking around. Anyways, it's got super amounts of crazy brightness. Boop, 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 right? And it drops down. Well, the other feature of this thing that's beneficial and behooving is that it has a battery pack. They don't all come with this. You can buy these things separate and all the rest of it. Anyways, this is their battery pack. I don't know if I'm super sold on this. This is a fair amount of weight, but it's balanced out on the front and the back. And then I know if I'm going to go exploring and I end up in a tunnel system for a couple days instead of a couple of minutes, the battery pack's essential. So this will automatically charge up this part of it and keep this thing topped off. This will drain itself before this battery is ever used. That's fantastic. It's an intelligent charging system. So this is beneficial. So now I've extended another 5,300 amp to then include another additional 5,000. So now I got 10,300 milliamps of power. I can run a light for days, and I could run this light for a month. On super low, I could run this thing for a month in case I have a really exciting adventure and I get to go preach the gospel to all the Nephilim. Sure hope so. Anyways, I've walked out of the car in the parking lot, and I end up starting to walk my way over because I'm smelling wet earth. I'm smelling water that's flowing over rocks, and I want to go ahead and find out what the heck that is because that smells delicious and a very, very friendly space for me. We're on our last cup, those of you that are still with us. We're reaching the end of the French press. We've arrived at the midnight hours here. So I decide, I'm going to go ahead and investigate that smell because I know that's an underworld tunnel system and I definitely want to go spend some time in there, and I'm finally freed. Let's go, son. So I start to walk across what is an intersection, big intersection. This is like a city. There's storm drains, right? There's a storm drain that crosses underneath this highway, but it's nothing but a mountain on the other side. So that's the stuff that gets exciting. So I go ahead and examine. There's a creek basically between these stores. And I'm like, yes, baby, water and crazy underworld stuff. So I go around the creek and I come around to the other side over the overpass there, and I come around to the other side and there's just trash everywhere, right? And there's a certain type of stench that then hits you, right? Anytime flowing water is flowing underground, it's also moving air. That's important for ventilation. That's a distinct smell, and if you spend enough time underground, you definitely learn that smell, and it becomes very nostalgic, and you can smell it a long ways away. But then when you approach the actual entrance to this area, it just is filled with trash, clothes, melted, burned plastic, bunch of hypodermic needles, and stuff from prostitution, that kind of stuff, just all over, littered around. Anyways, good urbanite area. So in order to enter into that urbanite area, here's the tradecraft, right? You gotta go from, business casual kind of guy, and you gotta be able to put on the criminal. You got to put on the drug addict. You got to put on the pimp, the prostitute. You got to be able to put on the different hats for what happens inside the tunnels of most cities, right? Which is people looking to score, people that have already scored, people that are already cranked out, people that are coming down, or they're looking, right? There's all kinds of various things, or you can look strung out. King David made himself look crazy, you guys. It's super biblical. Just track with me for a second. He looked super crazy. He made himself go all kinds of crazy so that king wouldn't kill him. Just saying, it's all biblical spy tradecraft. The Bible's full of tradecraft. Tuck it away. Anyways, I read the Bible very differently than most of you do. Some of you don't, but I read the Bible. When I read stuff like that, I'm like, savage tradecraft, son. Anyways, you put on the crazy. You go ahead and mess up your beard, and you roll around in the trash, right? You start picking up clothes that are down there and putting them on. You start putting them on, and you start putting on the smell. There's a fragrant, particular aroma that comes from underworlds. And if you want to be able to enter into that underworld, because you're going to go through that transitionary light period and all the rest of that stuff, you either have to introduce yourself to the tunnel rats and the sentinels in a various different method, right? They need to know what side you're on. Are you on the detective side? Are you on the investigator side? Are you on the policeman side? Are you on the druggie side? Like, where are you? Because as soon as I look down the tunnel, it's a deep one, right? And there's mattresses in there. You can imagine. Anyways, that's the place I want to go because I want to see, hey, is there anybody in here? Like, anybody in here? I want to go meet people. I love it. I want to turn off the lights and go crawl into that space and go ahead and hide inside that space and just watch and observe what's going on in there. That's what I was doing when I was little. My family had this house next to this thing called the Navajo Highway in Flagstaff, Arizona, and they had this house that was on, Patterson Boulevard. 2713 Patterson Boulevard. Tuck it away. Anyways, when I was little, when I wanted to learn human skills and understand how urbanite people lived and what the criminal underworld looked like, I would go out around our fence and I would spy on all of the drunks, right? All the addicts and stuff, because it was a big alley that goes through Flagstaff. And so people that didn't want to be seen, like criminals, spies, stuff like that, they go in the alleys, in the places most people don't go, and they walk this. It's a big one. It goes a long ways. And so everybody hangs out in there and does all kinds of stuff in there. And that's where I learned how to keenly observe people from the shadows and how to like camouflage myself around homeless people, vagrants, and drunks, right? And you learn you can basically just completely hide in all of the rubble and the trash and just cover yourself in that. Nobody ever looks at anything other than that, like nobody wants to look through the dirty toilet paper pile, but that's a great place to hide when you need to. So just anyways, tuck it away. That's the ghillie suit life of urbanite and underworld life. So you put that on, right? And you can go into that space and be treated like one of your own or one of their own. Anyways, I started walking down the tunnel, and it's just covered in all kinds of graffiti and all kinds of curse writings and necromantic, like magic incantations, all the usual stuff. Anyways, I start doing two things. First thing is I take the super light. You bet. Because I'm still in somewhat business casual. I just stink now. Where was it? My super light. I had this one, but I didn't use it. No, where did I put that thing? It's better. Anyways, I took my bright light. There it is. I took my bright light. And I shined it down the tunnel to just get a familiarization of how many eyeballs are staring back at me and how many of them are glowing, because it's a whole different story. Anyways, I shine it back there, and this thing goes back about 150 yards, right? Deep thing. And then it branches off into maintenance tunnels going one way, and then it has a whole subset secondary tunnel system going to the left. And I'm like, yes, it's a big one. And I start going into the thing because it's a default, man. I just want to go back. I want to go back in there because there are so many things that have happened up here on the surface world that I can translate to the people down here and explain to them. Like, there's still some good, wonderful people that are like not monsters. And that's a good piece of information to take back down into the people that are stuck inside this world. Anyways, there's this feeling that you have to stop because you still have a family at home. You have a family. And as much as you want to go exploring into the tunnels and going back into the old ways of looking and hunting, listen, I go in there and I pray. sincerely. I ask the Father to forgive the sins that have been committed in that place and to provide deliverance and restoration to the people that are stuck in that. I want people to find freedom that are stuck in that. At the same time, it's also a great place to find who the real monsters of society really are, because that's where they like to hang out too. But I had a hard stop, and I had to turn around and go back out. But in the meantime, it gave me a real excitement and a love for the people that are under the overpass. You know what I mean? So then I went into Best Buy. I found some headphones. They sucked. I ended up having to return them because they fell out of my head all the time. Either way, I learned a valuable lesson, because when I came home and I showed my wife pictures of what was happening down inside there and all the stuff and the chains on the walls and the electrical cords and everything else that's used for the BDL, all that stuff, she was horrified, and she was pretty terrified as to why the heck I even go in spaces like that. And I remember all of a sudden quite clearly that this chasm between people that came from normal life and people that came from the world I do is quite hard to bridge. It's a quite hard thing to go across. But you know what? I'm trying to do my best to translate between two different kingdoms and two different peoples, and one that live inside a criminal empire and were raised and only knew that as normal, and those that didn't. And you know what? My wife gave me the gift of understanding, in understanding that what I went through was not normal to what she went through, but what she went through is not normal to me either. And I wouldn't trade her life for mine, not one day of it. I wouldn't trade what I had for my past at all. I am thankful at the end of the day that I had the experiences I had, even though they were horrific and marred me and ruined me, destroyed me in so many ways. At the end of it, I am where I am today because the Most High had a plan of redemption that no matter what they intended for evil, Yahuwah intended for good in the saving of many lives. And I'm confident of that now. That being said, I still wait with eager anticipation for the day of bloodshed and violence and fire. And I can't wait for that day. I don't seek to hasten the day. I just seek to hasten the excitement of all those who are praying and longing for it and get to be participants of the glory of Yah. Anyways, you guys, that's my story of the blade of the day today. So, learn the lessons from wide blades, sharp edges, titanium, G10, lightweight, fundamentally one of my favorite blades, one of the best gifts I've ever been given, and I'm very thankful for it. But I hope you guys live dangerously out there every single day of your life. The days may be evil, but please never forget that you were born for such a time as this. I love y'all. Have a great time. Find some fun blades. Learn how to sharpen. Learn a skill. And keep those edges sharp. Talk to you soon.